It's time to talk about the best division in baseball. What's up, everybody? Dan Ward here with the Ward on Sports, ready to break down the NL East and all of my previews and predictions. This is the best division in baseball with 3 potential playoff teams, and no team should finish with less than 72 wins. It's going to be a dogfight all season long between the 5 teams, and I know that most of you, or a lot of you at least, are thinking, well, wait, why did you just say 3 playoff teams and not 4? Well, here we go. The Nats are not a playoff team. 2 years ago, they had a period of time in which they were 19-31, albeit with injuries, but overall with a better roster than they have this year. Last year, they ended up finishing in last place in the 60-game season. Now you may be saying, but Dan, they ended up winning the World Series after that 19-31 start, and last year was a fluke of a season. What of that, I say? The Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl with a backup quarterback, and now look at where they are just a few years later. And if last year was a fluke of a season, well then Juan Soto's stats were a fluke of a season as well. They theoretically got better than last year with the additions of Josh Bell and John Lester, but Kyle Schwarber doesn't really give me a big boost in confidence for this team, especially since you have to have him playing defense in left field because there's no DH this year in the NL. Bell is as streaky as they come, and Carter Kieboom needs a lot of help over at third. So unless Robles can figure something out on offense, Bell can be a 40 home run type of player, which he definitely is capable of. That's not what I'm saying, but will he do it for the Nats? And can Starlin Castro be a 200 hit guy once again? If none of that happens, then the only people they really feeling confident and like they will have a great season are Trey Turner and Juan Soto. On the mound, sure, they have a 3-headed monster with Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, and Patrick Corbin, but that's not a guaranteed win anymore in the NL East if you have those 3 guys pitching. The Nats throw their 3 stars, but then the Mets throw deGrom, Stroman, Walker. The Phillies have Nola, Wheeler, and Eflin. The Marlins have Alcantara, Lopez, and Sanchez. And the Braves have Fried, Morton, Anderson. I'm not saying that they are all on the level of a Scherzer, Strasburg, Corbin trio, but they are all right there, and any one of them can compete with any one of those 3 pitchers. So the 3-headed monster isn't necessarily what it used to be for the Nats when they were the best pitching rotation by far in the NL East. The Mets were argued in there, but they never really came to fruition other than Jacob deGrom. But the Mets are back, the Phillies rotation got stronger, the Marlins have great young pitching, the Braves are still at the top of the East. So on pitching, they don't have as great of an advantage. Offensively, I don't think that they have as many weapons. I think losing Anthony Rendon did a lot to this team in the clubhouse, offensively, and certainly defensively over at third base. Wouldn't be surprised if Max Scherzer has another Cy Young type season and Juan Soto has an MVP type year, but that's really all I'm looking forward to for the Nationals. I think that is their high mark of the season. Quickly with the Marlins, last year was a bit of a fluke as they made the playoffs, but this year we will return to some normalcy. They have Sixto Sanchez and a bunch of other good young pitching arms, but the offense is lacking, and last year they really got lucky as their offense wasn't very good except for a few blow-up games, but they still were able to win enough games to make the playoffs. Over the course of 162 games, you would expect that offense to recede. They won't have as much luck, and their poor offense would come to hurt them, and they ended up making the playoffs had the season been a full year. I think they're certainly on the up and up. They will definitely be the best worst team, if that makes sense. They will have the highest record among all last place teams across the 6 divisions. They will probably be higher than a lot of 4th place teams in various divisions. But in the NL East, it's going to be, again, a dogfight. They're going to have to battle really hard against 4 other really good teams, 3 of them especially that are potential playoff teams, and that's just going to put them back towards the bottom. I have them returning to normalcy, being at the bottom of the division, behind the Nats, but not too far behind the Nats. Then we have the good stuff. We have the Mets. We have the Braves. We have the Phillies. Which team is going to come out on top? You have the Mets, who are the most exciting team in the NL East, mostly because of their trade for Francisco Lindor, the best shortstop in the game. They also brought along Carlos Carrasco in that trade, and they re-signed Marcus Stroman, so the pitching staff is looking once again like the best in the NL East. They also shored up their catching spot with James McCann, added a bat on the bench in Jose Martinez, and a couple of veteran presences to help on their bench and otherwise. The Braves were a little quieter as they lost a few players, but they also brought in some helpful pitching in Charlie Morton, Drew Smyly to a lesser extent, and they also added a potentially strong bat off the bench in third baseman Jake Lamb. And then the Phillies said bye-bye to Jake Arrieta, who was more of a pain than anything else for the Phillies in his time there. They added Jose Alvarado from the Tampa Bay Rays, one of those dominant bullpen arms. And then they brought back a bunch of players. The biggest move, re-signing JT Realmuto, the best catcher in baseball, bringing back Didi Gregorius to shore up their shortstop spot, and then rebuilding that bullpen that was the worst. Not just in the MLB season last year, but at times the worst in MLB history. That bullpen is now completely revamped, while the offense is a lot of the same as last year. Ranking these three teams starting pitching-wise, I would put the Mets at number 1, Phillies at 2, Braves at 3. A lot of people do like this Braves starting rotation, but comparing it to the Mets and the Phillies, I do feel more confident in those two teams, especially when comparing the 4-5 starters. I think both teams have stronger 4-5 starters. Bullpen-wise, Braves-Mets could both be 1 or 2. I'll put the Braves at the top and then the Mets just for changing things up. Phillies still have to be at number 3, and while their bullpen got a lot better in the offseason on paper, we still need to see it. It's been a struggle the last few years. Just because you bring in a bunch of names that have done it before doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be good right away. So you got to see it before you rank the Phillies higher among these three. Offensively, it's a coin flip. You could put these teams in any order you want. For me, I'm going to put the Phillies at the top. Last year, they had a great offense, one of the tops in the league. Just didn't translate into wins because of how bad the bullpen was. Put the Braves at number 2. A lot of people like having them at number 1 because of MVP Freeman, Ronald Acuna Jr., Ozzie Albies, Dansby Swanson that one year that he had a really great year. So they do have a strong offense. It is very tough up and down the lineup. So I'll put them at number 2. The Mets, number 3, mostly because I think of them still more as a pitching team than I do an offensive team. But even up and down their lineup, they have a chance to be tough outs everywhere, especially if Pete Alonso decides to have more of a rookie type season as opposed to last year. So put them in any order you want, really. But for me, Phillies, Braves, Mets is what I believe. So what does this mean? Well, even though the Braves don't have the pitching to match up with the other two teams on paper, they're still an all-around good baseball team. They still have Freddie Freeman, who does not let that team lose a lot of games and does not let them go down quietly. They have a great clubhouse, and they seem to really all like each other, which does go a long way. So until you prove to me that the Braves can be beaten, or you give me a better reason for the other two teams other than, oh, they had an exciting offseason. The Braves are still there. Their core is still intact. They've won the division several years in a row. Going with the Braves again. I have them winning less games than they did in 2019, but still with a mini runaway, winning by about 6 games in the division. So what does that mean between the Mets and the Phillies? Well, you can call me a biased Phillies fan all you want, but I do think that they finish in second place, ending their 9-year playoff drought and get that 5th and final playoff spot in the National League. The Mets are still the Mets, and similar to the Braves, until you give me a reason to pick against what has been happening repeatedly, I'm going to pick the thing that's been happening repeatedly. The Mets are often a favorite team. They are often a top pick, a popular pick, but then they don't live up to expectations, whether it's because of injuries, whether because it's the LOL New York Mets, or something else. It just keeps happening. So sorry, not sorry to the Mets. You have to prove that you can be a popular pick and live up to the expectations before I pick you. I don't like that that's one of my main arguments, but it is. And don't get me wrong, the Mets are going to be a really good team. I only have the Phillies beating them by 1 game, but it's that 1 game difference, and it'll be just enough to say, oh, look, the Mets did it again. Now you may be arguing, well, Dan, what have the Phillies done that's going to make them so much better and make anything different from them? Okay, well, here we go. First off, they don't have Matt Klentak. They have David Dombrowski, and that is huge. He is a proven winner. He has won with teams in the past, and that is going to be huge rather than having Matt Klentak, who is very smart in a lot of ways. He's not a bad baseball mind. He is definitely just not the right baseball mind for the Phillies, and maybe going to the next level of he shouldn't be a general manager. Secondly, they don't have the worst bullpen in Major League history like they did last year. They added guys like Jose Alvarado, Archie Bradley, Brandon Kinsler, Tony Watson, and several other guys who can actually throw the ball hard and get guys out. They have proven names, a bullpen that is going to be good, And even if it is just average, the Phillies are going to be so much better. They're bringing back essentially the same offense, and that was an offense that led in more games last year than any team in baseball, not named the LA Dodgers, who ended up winning the World Series. You bring back one of the best offenses in baseball, you improve in the starting pitching staff and in the bullpen, and that is a recipe for success. So the Phillies would have been a playoff team easily last year if they had a half-decent bullpen. And now that they do have a half-decent bullpen, I expect to see a big increase in wins, allowing them to finally break their playoff drought. Not going to lie, if you have the Nationals or the Mets making the playoffs, I'd put an argument up against you, but I would not think that it's necessarily a bold prediction or that you're out of your mind. Even if you have the Marlins, it would definitely be a bold prediction, but I certainly could see it playing out that way in a weird world. Baseball is weird, so you never know. All I know is that this is going to be the best division in baseball. It's going to be exciting from game 1 to game 162, and I'm just excited to see how it all plays out. So thank you for watching. Let me know how you think the division is going to play out. Who's going to be the MVP of the NL East? Who's going to be in the playoffs in your mind among those 4 potential playoff teams? Let me know in the comments. Thanks again for all your support, for watching. Be on the lookout for more previews for this upcoming 2021 MLB season. I'm Dan Ward. This is the Ward on Sports. Catch you all next time.